After you have read the lesson, you shall be able to comprehend the theoretical framework behind the concept of business ecosystem, demonstrate an understanding of the various theoretical approaches linked to ecosystem, critically evaluate the different approaches to ecosystem, recognize and demonstrate the variety of factors that influence business decision making in the contemporary dynamic business environment. Examine the challenges faced by managers in effectively running organizations in today's dynamic environment. Appreciate the contribution made by the theoretical explanation of various forms of ecosystems in developing a comprehensive understanding of business ecosystem approach. Introduction. The elements of business ecosystem surround and affect the survival of business and growth. To a business enterprise, ecosystem means the sum total of conditions, influences, and events that surround and affect it. Business ecosystem is a new and evolving concept in the area of business research. The academic expression of the concept is vague and often confusing. However, much is being written about the concept as it has the potential to decode the highly complex business environment existing before most of the companies today. The activities in the economic sphere are changing from stand-alone to interconnected activities forming a network. Research in business today includes more perspectives to understand the relationship and behavior of interconnected organizations. Business ecosystem thus can't be ignored as a random grouping of elements. It is in fact a structured community involving customers, suppliers, technology, and the like. Today's marketplace, which is characterized by increased pace and complexity, calls for interconnected network of elements. Organizations should be able to use their relationships with other actors, with customers, partners, and the competitors. This can be achieved through an understanding of the factors and mechanisms which play a pivotal role in an interconnected business model. There has been a radical shift in the business research from an individualistic explanation to a more relational and systematic understanding. An understanding of business ecosystem is critical for a business manager as it helps in assessing opportunities and threats and responding to them judiciously. To remain competitive, organizations must visualize these factors and deploy the scarce resources accordingly. In the modern world, it has become increasingly important to interact and coordinate with a number of elements to do business successfully and sustainably. Practitioners and academicians both are recognizing the importance of the ecological metaphor for a better understanding of the complex world of business and its relationships within and across industries. It is since long that the scientists have been using analogy and metaphor for a better understanding of the phenomena they study. It seems that this conceptualization of business as an ecosystem has first appeared in the work of Morey in 1993. It was then developed by several other researchers with different focus and perspectives. The crystallization of business ecosystem approach by him is influenced by multidisciplinary approaches, including views of Gregory Bateson's work on co-evolution in both natural and social systems. In order to explore the concept of business ecosystem to a further level, it is of prime importance to throw some light on different forms of ecosystem. The analogies and imperfections in these analogies may help the managers to devise a strategy perfect for the survival and growth of the organization. Now let us discuss about different forms of ecosystem. The evolving concept of business ecosystem is exhibiting linkages with several earlier theoretical notions of industrial ecosystem, social ecosystem, etc. The work of both widely cited authors in the area of business ecosystems, viz. Murray and NCT and Levin, talk about a comparison of business ecosystem with the biological ecosystem. Thus, in order to understand the concept of business ecosystem in a better way, it is essential to elaborate upon some of the main types of ecosystems which are primarily studied in the scientific world. These are biological ecosystem, digital business ecosystem, industrial ecosystem, economy as an ecosystem, and social ecosystem. So let us first of all discuss these type of systems one by one. Firstly, biological ecosystem. It would not be considered overboard if we say that the notion of business ecosystem has its roots in biological ecosystem. The concept of business ecosystem draws analogies from biological ecosystem and explores how these elements can be observed in the context of business. The concept of biological system can be better understood with help of the dictionary definitions of the same. The new shorter Oxford English Dictionary defines it as a system of organisms occupying a habitat together with those aspects of the physical environment with which they interact, while the Merriam-Webster Third New International Dictionary defines it as a community of living organisms with air, water, and other resources. On an analysis of both the definitions, it can be safely concluded that biological ecosystem is a system consisting of different living organisms in the same area. The biological system exhibits interaction between the living organisms and the environment. Both these widely cited authors like Murray and NZT and Levin have adopted a biological system model to describe the business relationship and decision making. They have emphasized the great importance of ecological metaphor for decoding the dynamic and complex business relationships. The idea of business ecosystem is similar to natural ecosystem in the sense that it can also sustain itself without outside interventions. On the flip side of the coin, NCT and Levin in their paper have pointed out the key features that business ecosystem have over and above the biological systems. They have further detailed these factors to be innovation, competition, and intelligent actors. So whether or not the biological metaphor is useful for a better understanding of business ecosystem will highly depend upon its contribution in the real business world. It is something that can be resolved by a long-term empirical research to test underlying relationships and of course the phenomena. Only this would enable to test the appropriateness of the biological metaphor. Now let us discuss about the second type of ecosystem, which is digital business ecosystem. The discussion of digital business ecosystem is as a result of introduction of digital network as an element of business ecosystem. Digital business ecosystem is a project funded by European Union having the objective of leveraging the potential of European SMEs in the software business. The digital business ecosystem is made up of digital species which are occupying a digital environment. The examples of digital species are software laws, components, applications, training modules, etc. The digital environment makes it possible for the digital species to behave like species in the natural world where they interact, evolve, and even extinct. The digital business ecosystem provides an organized framework under which the software coded by European SMEs can act like organisms of an ecosystem. The main objective of this analogy is to outcompete the larger software houses. The digital environment consists of all those factors that are related to applied knowledge and having an impact over the business model of an organization. Managers can't overlook the digital environment as it can play a pivotal role in defining the business possibilities. With careful strategizing, the field of digital environment is wide open and it is up to these SMEs to capitalize on the opportunities that the digital ecosystem offers. Advancement in digital species can open up a new market, can also result in proliferation of new and improved goods and services, change the relative position of digital species in the environment and render other species obsolete. Digital advancement can create new competitive advantages that are more powerful than of the big business houses. The third type of ecosystem is industrial ecosystem. The term industrial ecosystem was first coined by Frosch and Galopoulos and further matured by Kahonen and others in 2001. The notion of industrial ecosystem is about protection of environment and sustainable development. The basic idea behind industrial ecosystem is the protection of environment by means of nature. This is achieved through modifying processes, redesigning production equipment, and recycling the products efficiently. The industrial ecosystem concept is analogous to the concept of biological ecosystem, where everything is recycled infinitely. Although Such ideal position is a distant reality, but working towards it would ultimately help in maintaining the standards of living without harming the environment. Business firms depend upon various kinds of natural resources. Industries historically were set up in places where natural resources were available in abundance. This has given birth to pockets of pollution, congestion, and affluence at the same time. The natural resources began to be used, leading to immense rise in air pollution levels across land, air, or water. It has also led to ozone layer depletion. The situation has become quite alarming in recent years, attracting a lot of attention from the environmental activists and the governments. In the present scenario, most societies are concerned about ecology and deteriorating conditions of environmental pollution. Governments even intervene actively about issues relating to wildlife protection and protecting oceans' wealth. Hence, there is a call for radical change. The change should be about in a way that allows cooperation of the various industrial units by using each other's waste material as resources. Kahonen in 2001 described this phenomena as reducing the usage of virgin material and also virgin energy sources. He has also called for reducing the waste and emission outputs of the system as a whole. He has further elaborated that it can be achieved by using waste to substitute the virgin material and energy resources. Thus, the objective of industrial ecosystem is to bring about sustainable development of industrial operation. This can be achieved through minimum usage of virgin material in the industrial operation, through altering processes to ensure efficient use of virgin material, and through minimum and harmless waste. The fourth type of ecosystem is economy itself. So we can discuss about economy as an ecosystem. Rothschild has drawn variety of analogies between biological and economic phenomena. According to him, the basics of change are very similar for economic and natural environment. Rothschild has named his view of economics bionomics. It seems very apt as he has described that the economic development and the social change brought with it is not associated with society's genes alone. It is actually a product of accumulated technical knowledge passing on from one generation to another. He has gone further to say that the fate of every organism is shaped by information contained in his genes. Not only this, a living organism can also be understood by its relationships to its prey, competitors, and predators. In the same manner, an organization can be defined by its technology and by its relationships with its suppliers, competitors, and the customers. From a bionomic perspective, organisms and organizations are nodes in networks of these relationships. With the passage of time and as evolution proceeds, some nodes are wiped off and new ones come up. All this triggers adjustments and changes across each network. Each organism and organization is held in its niche place, restricted by its key relationships. In communist countries, economies are centrally planned. The state controls and regulates the economy, while in the free market or the capitalistic market, economies, the factor of production such as land, labor and capital are privately owned, and production occurs at the behest of the organization. So in a capitalist economic structure, the key phenomena which are central for survival of the business are competition, specialization, cooperation, exploitation, learning and growth are surprisingly observed in nature too. The only difference that Rothschild is able to observe is speed, which is a lot faster in economic change. In this analogy by Rothschild, the firms are behaving as biological organisms and the industries are behaving as species. It is very similar to the biological ecosystem in a way where organisms and species have together made it in the form of large ecosystem. The words firms and industries have also co-evolved to form a large living ecosystem. In this ecosystem, efficiency will result in survival, and on the other hand, inefficiency will cause extinction. The potential of the international economic forces was not realized until the dawn of globalization era. With all credits to the liberalization phenomena, opening up of economies and dismantling of quantitative restrictions on trade, every move on the international front demands a careful examination. Corporate planners, to survive, will have to clearly monitor other economic indicators for better prediction and hence survival. Strategies are aware of the importance and impact of economic environment on their organizations. Now we can also discuss about fifth type of ecosystem, which is social ecosystem. The notion social ecosystem is furthered by Middleton Kelley in 2003. They emphasized on the interdependence of organizations in the business sphere. As co-evolution can't happen in isolation, firms co-evolve amongst a social ecosystem. In the motion of social ecosystem, the term social here refers to a conjugation of organizations and not of individuals. Middleton Kelley say further that social ecosystem is a complex evolving system. Organizations in this form of ecosystem are presumed to be key elements. Thus, social ecosystem can be defined as a structured group of interdependent organizations and institutions, the basis of which is collaborative action. As defined by Middleton and Kelley, social ecosystem witnesses the co-evolution of organizations. In their view, each organization is a fully participating agent which both influences and is influenced by the social ecosystem made up of all related businesses, consumers and suppliers, as well as economic, cultural and the legal institutions. The focal point of social ecosystem is interdependence among its elements. Another key point of social ecosystem is the co-evolution of these organizations. Middleton Kelley emphasized that it is the functioning like social ecosystem that is critical for the survival and success of an organization. The organizations may not survive when they stop functioning like a social ecosystem. The research by Middleton Kelley focused on the complexity of social ecosystems, and this complexity is also visible in social ecosystems. Now we are towards an understanding of business ecosystem approach. From this discussion on various theories contributing to the approaches of business ecosystem, it can be safely concluded that business ecosystem perspective need more and advanced research for further development. While all these stated approaches have their own merits, none of them is perfectly demonstrating the relationship between organizations and their business network. This understanding of relationship is critical for the strategic behavior and hence the performance. Recent years have noticed a significant change in technology, the communication networks, and the level of globalization. This has significantly influenced the competitive environment and the pace of research. The contemporary research in the business sphere has called for increased integration of multiple academic approaches through which the complexities of the recent competitive scenario can be explained. Murray defines a business ecosystem as an approach to develop an understanding of how a community works. The business ecosystem is made up of a number of elements that can be business firms and other organizations and institutions. They are interconnected and affect each other. A series of interactions is the result of their interconnectedness with each other. A special feature of this interconnectedness is that the interconnections can be both competitive and complementary. This interconnectedness leads these organizations to a shared fate. In this interconnected web of relationships, these organizations are dependent on each other. The success and failures of one can result in success and failure of another. But what is interesting here is that the members of business ecosystem can make their own conscious decisions. What is more important is that these business organizations are capable of innovations that can harness their commercial benefits. They, in the meanwhile, can also take advantage of other interconnected members and make use of their capabilities. It is a challenging task as a business system is characterized by rapid change and unpredictability of its environment. Business ecosystem is basically a dynamic arrangement that is evolving and developing in passage of time. As we have seen in this discussion, the term ecosystem has been applied in different ways in social sciences and also in pragmatic business research. It has contributed to our understanding of business ecosystem as a phenomena. The business ecosystem approach has been widely written about, but it still lacks a precise definition. It is an evolving concept and calls for further multidisciplinary research. Now let us come to the conclusion of this module. To sum up, we can say that business ecosystem is a new and evolving concept in the area of business research. Business ecosystem means the sum total of conditions, influences, and events that surround and affect business. Today's marketplace, which is characterized by increased pace and complexity, calls for interconnected network of elements. An understanding of business ecosystem is critical for a strategist, as it helps in assessing business possibilities and act accordingly. In the modern world, it has become increasingly important to interact and coordinate with a number of elements to do business successfully and sustainably. The concept of business ecosystem is deeply rooted in several earlier theoretical notions revolving around biological ecosystem, industrial ecosystem, etc. Biological ecosystem is a system consisting of different living organisms in the same area. The biological system exhibits interaction between the living organisms and the environment. Whether or not the biological metaphor is useful for a better understanding of business ecosystem will highly depend upon its contribution in the real business world. The discussion of digital business ecosystem holds an important place, as it is a digital network which is lately introduced as an element of business ecosystem. Digital business ecosystem is a project funded by European Union, having the objective of leveraging the potential of European SMEs in the software business. The digital business ecosystem is made up of digital species which are occupying a digital environment. Digital environment consists of all those factors that are related to applied knowledge and having an impact over the business model of an organization. Digital advancement can create new competitive advantages that are more powerful than of the big business houses. The notion of industrial ecosystem is about protection of environment and sustainable development. The objective of industrial ecosystem is achieved through modifying processes, redesigning production equipment, and recycling the products efficiently. As per Rothschild, the basics of change are very similar for economic and natural environment. Rothschild has named his views of economics as bionomics, and the industries are behaving as species. In the analogy depicted by Rothschild, the firms are behaving as biological organisms. The economic development and the social change is not associated with society's genes alone. It is actually a product of accumulated technical knowledge passing on from one generation to another. From the perspective of economy as an ecosystem, an organization can be defined by its technology and by its relationships with its suppliers, competitors, and the customers. The words firms and industries have co-evolved to form a large living ecosystem. In the ecosystem, efficiency will result in survival, and on the other hand, efficiency will lead to cost extinction. The notion social ecosystem, as propounded by Middleton and Kelly, emphasized on the interdependence of organizations in the business sphere. Social ecosystem is a complex evolving system. Social ecosystem can be defined as a structured group of interdependent organizations and institutions, the basis of which is a collaborative action. The organizations may not survive when they stop functioning like a social ecosystem. The understanding of relationship between organizations is critical for strategic behavior and hence for the performance. A special feature of interconnectedness among the various elements of business ecosystem is that the interactions can be both competitive and complementary. Business ecosystem is basically a dynamic arrangement that is evolving and developing in the passage of time.